August 8, 1963, Buckinghamshire, England. What happened in the next 25 minutes would become the most infamous robbery in British history. The Royal Mail's travelling post office sits at Platform 1 of Glasgow Central Station. 12 carriages, 72 postal workers, and tonight, because of a Scottish bank holiday weekend, a cargo worth far more than usual. In the second carriage from the front, 5 postal workers sort registered mail, high-value packets, 128 sacks, each stuffed with bundles of used banknotes. The total, £2.6 million. At 10 minutes to 7, the travelling post office pulls out of Glasgow. Destination, London Euston. 400 miles of track ahead. It will never arrive. 300 miles south, in London, Bruce Reynolds makes one final phone call. Reynolds is a career criminal with expensive tastes and an appetite for the spectacular. Tonight is his masterpiece. One by one, they arrive at Leatherslade Farm, a remote property in the Buckinghamshire countryside, purchased weeks earlier under a false name. 15 men, each a specialist. Tonight, they become the most wanted men in Britain. Inside the farmhouse, Reynolds lays out the plan one final time. Railway maps, signal diagrams, timetables stolen from inside Royal Mail. Every man knows his role. Every second is accounted for. They suit up. Army surplus boiler suits, balaclavas, helmets, and leather-wrapped iron bars, kashas. Reynolds has drawn the line at firearms, no guns. But the kashas will prove devastating enough. At 1 in the morning, the convoy leaves Leatherslade Farm. 3 Land Rovers and an army surplus truck. 15 masked men heading into the darkness. 27 miles to Sears Crossing. The first team arrives at the target zone. Their job, cut every telephone line within a mile of Sears Crossing. No calls for help, no contact with the outside world. The area goes dark. Roger Cordrey, the signal specialist, reaches the trackside at Sears Crossing. He covers the green signal light with a leather glove. The green vanishes. Darkness. Then Cordrey wires a 6-volt battery to a red lamp. The fake signal glows to life. Any driver approaching will see one thing. Stop. The trap is set. 15 men spread along the embankment on either side of the tracks. Masked, armed with kashas, hidden in the darkness. They can hear the train coming. Jack Mills, 58 years old, a railman from Crewe, peers through the cab windscreen into the darkness. Then he sees it, red, a signal to stop. Mills applies the emergency brakes. 60 tons of locomotive and 12 carriages grind to a halt at Sears Crossing. It is 3 minutes past 3 in the morning. The train is exactly where the gang wants it. Co-driver David Whitby, 26 years old, climbs down from the cab to find a line-side telephone. He wants to call the signalman. The phone line has been cut, and he is not alone. As Whitby turns back toward the train, a figure lunges from the darkness. He is grabbed, thrown down the steep embankment. He lands in the ditch below, winded but alive. Simultaneously, gang members climb into the cab from both sides. Jack Mills fights back. He grapples with one attacker. Then a second strikes him from behind with a leather-wrapped iron bar. The blow fractures his skull. Mills slumps forward, semi-conscious and bleeding. With Mills subdued, the gang moves fast. They uncouple the rear 10 carriages, isolating the locomotive and the first 2 coaches. 70 postal workers in the rear carriages have no idea what is happening. The gang's own driver, a retired railman recruited by Ronnie Biggs, climbs into the cab. He freezes. This modern diesel locomotive is nothing like the small shunting engines he's used to. He cannot make it move. There is only one option. They drag the bleeding, semi-conscious Jack Mills back to the driver's seat. Under duress, with blood running into his eyes, Mills puts the locomotive in gear. The locomotive crawls half a mile up the track. A white sheet stretched between 2 poles marks the stopping point. Bridego Bridge. Below, 3 Land Rovers and a truck wait with engines running. The assault team attacks the high-value packet carriage. They smash the windows. They force the doors. Inside, 5 postal workers hear the glass shatter and a voice shout, "It's a raid." The 5 postal workers are overwhelmed in seconds. Masked men wielding kashas order them to the floor. They are told not to move for 30 minutes. The gang forms a human chain from the carriage to the road below. 120 mailbags, each weighing nearly 50 pounds, hand to hand, down to the waiting vehicles.
A sack tears. Bundles of 5-pound notes spill onto the road. For a moment, the men stop and stare. Then someone shouts to keep moving. In under 25 minutes, 2.5 tons of cash is transferred. The Land Rovers sit low on their suspension. The truck is full. Before leaving, the gang delivers a final warning to the postal workers. Do not move for 30 minutes. Then the masked men vanish into the night. At 3:45, the loaded convoy pulls away from Bridego Bridge. 3 Land Rovers and a truck carrying 2.6 million pounds rumble down dark Buckinghamshire lanes. Back at the train, 2 postal workers defy the warning. They climb from the carriage and flag down help. The alarm reaches the police, but it is already too late. At the farm, the doors close. The mailbags are emptied. The gang stands in silence, staring at the largest pile of cash any of them has ever seen. 2.6 million pounds on a farmhouse floor. They celebrate with tea and Monopoly, but they use real 5-pound notes instead of the paper money from the box. It is a detail that will haunt them. Their fingerprints are all over that board. They split the money into 17 shares, 150,000 pounds each. The men count in silence, filling suitcases and holdalls. Then they scatter. The plan called for a crew to burn the farm to the ground. They never came. The farm stands, and with it, every piece of evidence the gang left behind. 5 days later, a local herdsman notices something strange. The vehicles, the drawn curtains. He calls the police. A police sergeant and constable arrive at Leatherslade Farm. What they find inside changes everything. The truck, painted yellow. The Land Rovers, post office sacks. And fingerprints everywhere. Forensic teams dust every surface. On the Monopoly board, on the ketchup bottles, on the wrappers. Meticulous in planning, catastrophically careless in covering their tracks. Scotland Yard identifies 80% of the robbers within a week. Photographs are published in every newspaper. The most wanted men in the country now have names. Roger Cordrey is the first to fall, arrested in Bournemouth with a 141,000 pounds. Then, one by one, the dominoes topple. The press christens it the Great Train Robbery. Headlines dominate every front page. The public is fascinated, and more than 2 million pounds is still missing. The trial lasts from January to April 1964. 12 of 15 are convicted. 30 years for ringleaders, 307 years combined. Britain has never seen anything like it. In 1965, Ronnie Biggs escapes from Wandsworth Prison. A rope ladder over a 30-foot wall. A furniture van on the other side. Biggs vanishes. He will not be seen in Britain again for 36 years. Biggs flees to Paris, then Australia, then Brazil. He lives in Rio de Janeiro as a free man for 3 decades, while British authorities watch helplessly. He becomes the most famous fugitive in the world. Jack Mills never recovered. The head injury left him with chronic headaches and depression. He died in 1970, aged 64. His family maintained the blow contributed to his death. David Whitby, his co-driver, died of a heart attack 2 years later. He was 34. Less than 400,000 pounds was ever recovered. The Monopoly board, still bearing the fingerprints that convicted them, sits today in the Thames Valley Police Museum. The Great Train Robbery remains one of the most audacious criminal acts in history. A crime so brilliantly planned and so spectacularly bungled that 60 years later, it has never been forgotten.